Hello again, Anne Barr. I'm really delighted to welcome you back to the channel. And you were extremely well received last time, and I'm super excited to have you with us. Anne is a longtime astrologer, over 4 decades of experience and learning from really important astrologers of her time and of modern times as well. And she does have a website, which I'll put in the discussion box below, and then also is taking clients as well. So if you'd like to have a consultation with Anne, you'll find that information on her website. So Anne, today we're going to talk about this incredibly long-lasting Pluto sextile to Neptune. Now we kind of have to factor in Saturn as well, so I'll let you take a jump at that. And we'll leave for the future another conversation. We will take care of the larger configuration that we start to get after April, when Uranus moves into Gemini, and then when Jupiter jumps into Leo, your sign, your very important sign for you. You'll have a very important lived experience to share with us when that happens. And we're going to leave those things for the future because there's such a lot to cover already with this very long-term sextile. So thanks for being here again, Anne, and I'll let you take it away from there.
Hey, thank you for having me on again. Um, I wrote about this, it's on my website. I have to say, I just recently read what's on my website for the first time in ages, and it's full of errors. So please don't look up my website for the
Okay, give
I
her a
sat
few
there
days.
thinking for a few days till I correct this. I mean, I even have dates wrong. I mean, what an astonishment.
Oh,
Anyway,
and just before you jump in,
yeah.
last time I also got complaints from some people saying that I was interrupting you all the time. And I felt like saying you should have dinner in an Irish household and see if you can
Ah,
get a word in.
yeah.
So you're going to get interrupted. People who don't like that are just going to have to suck it up because this is how conversation
Yeah.
rolls. So,
Well, I have to say it's very relaxing for me when you interrupt me because I often get tongue-tied because I'm not used to doing this. So, if I suddenly stall and I know you're going to talk, so it's just totally relaxing. It gives me time to think.
well, there
Yeah.
you go. That's great.
Mm.
So I'm looking forward to hearing more about this. I've been following it too, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you've been really keeping your eye on this because it's a significant thing for all of us who are
It
basically alive
is.
today.
And when I began learning astrology in the 80s, which is very much psychological, kind of hippie astrology, I would say, where, everything could be nice. And the books that I read, the sections of books that I read about the Pluto-Neptune sextile, they were very vague. And I could never really get a grip on it until recent times. Because, this sextile started, depends who you listen to, but the end of the 40s or the middle of the 50s, depending on the orb that you use. And we were suddenly, well, not suddenly, but gradually thrown into this incredibly confusing sea of communication, deep, confusing communication. And the communication bit is important because this cycle started in 1890, 1892, around that time,
I think 1894. Yeah.
1894, when Pluto and Neptune were conjunct at the beginning of Gemini. So that's the communication bit. And I mean, this is so historical and so worth reading up on the history of this because it gives us such a deep understanding of the whole period that we're in since the invention of the printing press, because that was the last time we had this long-term cycle. And it began in Gemini then.
As well. Wow. So just for those who are new
Mm.
to astrology, can you
Mhm.
just spell out the significance of it actually starting that synodic cycle in Gemini?
Well, it's like a new moon. Like we say, oh, there's a new moon in Virgo. So we're going to look at where Virgo is in our charts. We're going to look at all the significations of Virgo in order to make that new moon useful for us. That's how I see astrology.
Yeah.
What can I start on this new moon that suits the Virgo aspect in my chart? And what can I expect from the world there's going to be a month of Virgo type things.
Right. Yeah.
In this case, we're looking at how many years is it? Nearly 500 years. Like these cycles are enormous.
It's
Nearly
crazy.
500 years. Actually, it started almost 1,000 years ago.
Wow.
So we have, and there's going to be two or three more conjunctions in Gemini of Pluto and Neptune. So we're in a vast area of the communication explosion,
That's extraordinary. And I just want
isn't
to
it?
interject about astrology in there because
Mm,
if that's 1,000-ish years ago, that was when sort of the Arab astrology really started to predominate, or at least, added a lot to
yeah.
astrology.
Mm,
And bringing in fixed stars, for example, bringing in the Arabic parts. So rather than the lots of fortune and etc., they became the Arabic parts. And also, things started to become more and more personal in astrology. Over the last 1,000 years. Before that, it was much more about, well, even during that last 1,000 years, but before that, it was really only about rulers and what time should we do this fire ceremony, or what's the best time to attack or retreat or whatever in a war situation. So it's a very interesting timeline as well, that the because Gemini is all about the individual, isn't it? It's that person, it's the person to person communication and relationship and information. And it's really interesting that you mentioned the Gutenberg press and now the last century, which has been all about mass communication.
yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is this is the thing we're grappling with now as they come into these new pattern shapes, including Gemini from April.
Yeah.
So,
And there's a quote on that article that I don't recommend you read yet, but the quote is correct from Mark Twain in the 1800s, saying that everything good and bad from the last 500 years is due to Gutenberg.
wow.
Yeah. And he was a pretty wise guy, Mark Twain. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
profound statement, actually. Really,
Mm.
I mean, it's so true because it's what is this information bringing people, and how are they using that is another way of looking at that. This is
Yeah. And the dissemination of knowledge.
mm,
And I mean, Gemini is kind of a value-free sign, isn't it? Gemini is not really into the value of the information. It's just loves the information.
yeah, take it
Yeah.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's gossip and, TV shows. Like it's
yeah,
all this
yeah, yeah. It's absolutely
wonderful,
because
super
that
intelligent. Yeah.
it's so true as that Mercury,
Mm.
it's the energy of the daytime. It's the daytime Mercury,
Yeah.
and it's very out in the open. It's like bisexual or good and bad. It's all the same. It's all
Yeah.
fine to Gemini. It's all that ambivalence of Mercury, and which is very childlike. It's like, oh, that's interesting, as opposed to, oh, that's good or bad.
Mm.
And that's another interesting dynamic, that the communication is just a neutral channel, isn't it? It's like if you turn on the radio, it's just a communication device. It doesn't
Mm.
necessarily, it's not a bad radio or a good radio. And the way we listen or interpret or add to the information is where things get a little tricky, like Mark Twain was
Indeed. Yeah.
implying.
And Mercury is definitely the trickster. And
Yeah,
also that Gemini version of Mercury, it's kind of the oil, that oils our daily getting on with each other.
right. Yeah,
Small talk is a really important thing for just getting on with people
yeah, yeah.
and for business and for exchange, all those things that make us deeply human. Like it's a deeply human Mercury in Gemini, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
also it's like a linchpin. Like Mercury is that the messenger between the gods and the humans, and having that psychopomp energy come into everything. It's how we meet heart to heart. It's how we meet in terms of how are the kids, or it's how we meet in terms of, oh, you've got a cute dog or whatever. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, it's how we exchange value. We like, I have a bunch of bananas and I'd like your skills as a shoemaker. So can you fix my
Yes.
shoes and I'll give you my
Mm.
bananas? And that's very Mercury as well. And then that becomes something that becomes the fabric of society. And that I think we're going to
Exactly.
we're going to see how that has shifted the fabric of society over the last century as well.
Exactly. And, it's our siblings and our neighbors who are the immediate people that we chat to,
Yeah,
not necessarily on the deep, deep, deep things, but, it's the chatty things.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mom, where are my socks?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
mommy, he took my teddy bear.
yeah.
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 Anyway, we're kind of set in the background here. The Gemini
Yeah,
and
let's not
Aquarius.
get too carried away with Gemini.
I know we
We'll
could
be here for
chat
hours.
about Gemini forever. But we're set in the background for these deep things that are working through Gemini. And first of all, we had the Gutenberg press, which gave rise to an incredible amount of revolution when people could read their own Bible
Mm,
and decide what the word of God meant to them without a priest or, the hierarchy's interpretation.
yeah.
Uh, and of course, it led to the Reformation. That was the beginning of the Reformation, the revolt against the Roman Church that led to the Reformation, which led to, an incredible change of property, like it led to a big business revolution
Mm.
through um, the beginning of the Protestant religion, because all that church property went into private hands. So we had the beginning of capitalism and enclosures and all of that. So, the word is powerful. In the
Mm.
beginning was the word.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so just to clarify again, for people who are a little bit new to astrology or not really sure why we're talking about Gemini so much, it's because it's the theme of the conjunction, which carries the theme through the entire synodic cycle, which is, as we've seen, over 100 years between the planets. And so there's this, and even in cycles repeating through centuries, as you've pointed out, going back in time. So that's
Hmm.
why we're talking about Gemini, but we know that, of course, Pluto today is in Aquarius and Neptune is in Aries now. So it's just to avoid confusion, just
Okay,
wanted,
yeah, because it's so big what we're talking about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's vast. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So at that time, we had a revolution in communication when there was when that sextile happened in the 1300s. And now, since the 1940s, 1950s, until 1932, we are in another revolution of communication. First it was a television in every house, and now it's the internet, which is such a, I don't know what you call it, but it's an explosion to the power of, I don't know how
Yeah,
many,
yeah, yeah.
in communication. And it's thrown us into deep confusion, which is a meaning of Pluto and Neptune,
Mm.
you know? And we're learning to navigate through like an ocean, like a deep, dark ocean of communication and the use of words and how powerful words are and how we manifest our dreams through words. Neptune is our dreams, and Pluto's, how the masses live. Wherever Pluto is, it's telling us how wealth is distributed.
Yeah. Do you remember in the 60s there was this believe it or not, for those who are much younger, you would think that everybody was in love with television, but there were a lot of people very much in early on not a fan of television,
Yeah.
and probably with the same ambiguity that we have towards AI today. And people who were more maybe reticent or already a little bit more maybe on the pulse
Yeah.
or conspiratorial, whatever you want to call it, they called it vision. So from the 60s, you had this kind of, again, hippie countercultural sense that there's something that like you mentioned, the dream, we're being kind of told what to dream. We're being told what to think. We're being told how to envision, if a book, for example, had been made into a film or into a television series, you're being told what that character needs to look like or the context of the story needs to look like, instead of going with your own imagination in the book as you're reading it and feeling what comes through you and what comes through your sense of whatever that might be. So it's been an incredibly powerful tool.
Mm.
Again, not to set that bomb off right away, but just it's been a huge tool of influence, and that can also include marketing as well, which was never really a thing before Pluto trining Neptune this century, or meaning my century, the last century. So when that whole movement of marketing really took off, that was really the 30s. That was something that we can associate with propaganda. So the marketing propaganda and that kind of spin on it is really important. And the thing about the dreaminess of Neptune and the social implications for Pluto and the power that comes with that is it's always there, but then the theme changes according to who's ruling who at the time.
Yeah.
So,
We're being told what to dream.
yeah,
Our dreams are being manipulated. Like that's Pluto, manipulation and big power, and Neptune's our dreams and our visions. And we love it. That's the other thing.
yeah, it's addictive,
I
actually, isn't
mean,
it?
yeah, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
Hollywood, and I think the poorer people are, and the more they're being affected by, the nasty side of capitalism, the more
Mm.
they love Hollywood. It's a,
Yeah, true. It's an escape, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah, it's an escape. Yeah,
yeah.
it's amazing. So I just want to go back for a moment to the 1890s. Because, of course, a lot of things, in the way the 20th century began in the 1890s,
Hmm.
because mass communication, telephones, all those things became more and more accessible to people. And, the combustion engine changed distances and, short distance travel, long distance travel, all of which are Gemini. But for me, I think the most powerful thing is Freud and the interpretation of dreams.
Mm.
Because he wrote that, he was researching that at the beginning of the 90s, 1890s, and then he published it around the middle of the 1890s. And then I don't think it was very popular to start with, but it became more and more and more popular. And, a lot of people say a lot of bad things about Freud these days, and I'm sure there's a basis for it.
Hmm.
But that richness of finding out about the power, the Pluto power of our Neptune dreams. I mean, that's of course, it's been horribly misused, primarily to begin with by his own nephew, Edward Bernays, who
Yeah,
began propaganda. Like
yeah,
he actually asked Freud advice about how to make the First World War popular, so
yeah,
America would go into it. And then the selling of cigarettes to women, because that was half the market. Like all these things were manipulated directly
yeah.
uh, by Freud's
Deliberately, yeah.
ability to manipulate, sexiness and
Hmm.
cigarettes or,
Hmm.
patriotism, like the use of our dreams against us.
Yeah, and also
Mm.
the illusion of self, like identity, right? It's that Gemini communicates it through what we think we are, like the way we communicate represents who we think we are in our egoic identity. Um, so it's also that. It's like having a sense of, well, with the depth psychology or the Freudian sort of psychological movement, it's about trying to get to the root of my angst, my problems, my life. And before that, people weren't that self-focused or self-aware or egoic, you could even say, because it was more about, okay, well, I sort of suck it up for the family or for the nation or whatever. I just like go through life and this is what it is. And Freud, in a way, taught people to say, wait a minute, I am very important. My self-identity is important, and it almost inflates that. And that is what is being marketed to. So, and that is also where the propaganda comes in, the fear, the intimate sense of security or insecurity, and all that stuff. So it's a big tangled web that has emerged from this particular cycle of Pluto-Neptune.
Yeah. And psychoanalysis was commonly called talk therapy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This is Gemini again. Yeah.
Yeah. And all the
Mhm.
association of words, like there was a lot of games with words, and there is a lot of that kind of interesting
Yeah,
games with words in psychoanalysis. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, that was the negative side of it. That is still the negative side of it, and possibly about to get more negative. But anyway, uh, but the positive side of it is that we are getting to know ourselves more deeply And that means when you know yourself, sovereignty, self-knowledge, you can't be manipulated so easily.
Mhm.
And
Is
that
that, do you think that's the Aries component that's going to be really strong now? Do you think that's where that comes through?
very interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but that is very interesting. Yeah, my dreams. Don't mess with my dreams.
Yeah, leave
Yeah,
me alone kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yes,
Mm,
very interesting. Yeah, let's see if that turns out. I think it is turning out already because we've
yeah.
had a few ingresses of Neptune into Aries over the last
Hmm.
2 years. So, I mean, the whole online communication thing, it gives you an idea of what people are thinking in a way that we've never had before.
Hmm.
We were all staring at the television and somebody was telling us what to think. But now there's more peer to peer, which is the
Right.
Pluto and Aquarius thing, the Aquarian age thing that we can talk to each other and go, oh, do you believe that guy? No, I don't. Oh, no, that's a scam. Um, so like everything, I mean, you say that quite often in your podcasts. There's never one side.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's never, I don't think there's ever just two sides either.
No,
There's as
for
many
sure.
sides as we are.
Yeah, and that's very Aquarian as well, isn't it? That also
Yeah.
that sense of the multiplicity within the
Mm.
societal, that's like the very
Mm.
opposite to Leo, which is the unity or
Me.
the
Yeah.
individual or the
Yeah.
solar center. And
Yeah.
then the opposite is the multifold interaction in society, right? So, but I
Yeah.
was just thinking as you were talking about that, ability now on internet to see other people's opinions, it
Mm.
really does parallel the Gutenberg era where people could get somebody's thoughts because now they're reading a pamphlet. And even astrologically, I was fascinated to see that hundreds of years ago, there were these astrology magazines, and people were sharing their thoughts on astrology. And then people would say, no, don't give a 5-degree orb, it needs to be a 3-degree orb. Or and so having that interaction is also sounds profoundly thematic in terms of this particular Gemini themed cycle between Pluto and Neptune.
Absolutely. And the Bible was the most printed book.
Mhm.
Next to that were astrology pamphlets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In terms of how many books were printed just after the printing press, got
Wow.
spread around a bit. And then the other thing, which was very negative, especially for women, was that Malleus Maleficarum, the,
Ah,
the, the witch's hammer,
yeah, yeah.
which fueled the Inquisition,
The fear and the
the fear,
despisal and oh yeah.
and the othering.
Yeah, and the othering, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
This is also parallel with the internet, isn't it? I mean, we see
Mm.
that. It's easy to sit sort of
Mm.
in your corner typing away and hating someone because you've created an image that you project outwards and you're afraid in your own little corner. So it's good to point a finger at some person that you'll never meet. And it's the same kind of witch hunt. So now we call it canceling, or we call it, there'll be doxing to tell people where to go and, throw paint
Yeah,
at somebody's front door or worse. And
yeah.
that's the modern day witch hunt, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Let's not get too dark. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
get. we'll
I just tried to think of what to say next now.
Let's have a look at the teaming up now because they're going to have to kind of cooperate. The teaming up of Pluto in Aquarius with now the addition of Saturn and Neptune in Aries.
Oh, yeah, that is so interesting because, Saturn, who gives the form to our lives, the structure of our lives. And, it's the planet of the authorities that, you know, supposedly help us give structure to our lives, um, has been between Pluto and Neptune since January 2020. Now, we all
Wow.
know what happened in 2020.
Yeah.
That was Pluto and Saturn together in the very authoritarian sign of Capricorn. And one would say that authoritarian type people and entities overstep their reach at that point, overreach their step. How do you say it? Overstep their reach.
Overstep their reach. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
they overdid it
Yeah.
and caused a huge backlash for themselves. But Saturn was in Capricorn, where it's strong, and then it went into Aquarius for another 2.5 years, where it's still strong. Then it went into Pisces, where everything went woo.
Yeah.
You
Tell me about it.
know,
I have Saturn in Pisces.
everybody got confused about what's the structure of what, and what government, what authority do I believe? Do I believe any of them? Uh, and uh, Now it's gone into Aries, where it's not very happy. And it's still beside Neptune, that still makes it go, ooh. So, um, the authorities just overdid it and they're paying for it. And that's part of a natural cycle of
Yeah,
things. If you go away to one extreme, everything swings back again.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what we're in now is, I'm my own Saturn. It's Aries. I can express my own Saturn, with Mars determination,
Right.
confidence, and I can express my own dreams, the Neptune thing. And also, when that Pluto and Saturn were together in Aquarius, which was very powerful and very difficult, um, Neptune was in Pisces, where it's very powerful. So our empathy was so turned against us, isn't
Right.
it?
And also, I
You
think Jupiter played everybody piled
Mm.
in, didn't they? It was Jupiter,
Yeah, that's right.
Mars was there, everybody was there.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then there's little Neptune in Pisces trying to fight the good fight, but it all ends up in this kind of mass confusion delusion, confronting power that just says, this is true, this is the word, this is the thing. And Neptune in Pisces is going, oh, I guess so, I don't know.
Yeah,
And that also
and Pluto
represents
said, protect
airborne
your
disease.
granny, put a mask on, protect your granny.
Yeah,
And,
masks
and,
don't work.
and
No, wear a mask. No, they don't
yeah,
work. No, wear a
yeah,
mask. Yes.
and take some kind of medicine so that other people don't get sick. I mean, that's so Neptunian,
Let,
isn't it?
yeah, don't get me
I'm going to
started.
sacrifice
Yeah.
myself to help someone else. I mean, come on.
Oh
But
yeah, the
anyway,
sacrifice element for sure, because that was played really strong, wasn't it? Don't kill your grandmother. Don't kill your grandmother. Yeah, that sacrifice thing, that's that Neptunian Piscean energy really used against us. That was very, very
yeah.
strong. Yeah.
So I think that point, 2020 and the couple of years following it, was the top of the power of this sextile, which
Mhm.
has been going on since the 1940s.
Yeah.
Because Pluto was so powerful with Neptune there and in a Saturn sign, and Neptune, or with Saturn there in a
Right.
Saturn sign, and Neptune was so powerful in Pisces.
Yeah.
So I think we really saw the tip of, the top of that power at that
Right.
point. And so it's been downhill since then in terms of how we can be manipulated and
Right.
people exploring really what the truth is.
Right. And now with the Saturn in its detriment,
And
sorry,
Neptune
it's
not too
actually
happy. Yeah.
technically it's in fall. It's not in detriment. Bad teacher. So Saturn is in fall in Aries because it's in exaltation in the opposite sign of Libra, and
Mm,
so that is where there's an advantage to having a Saturn in fall in Aries at this time, where there's just so much pushing back against authority and so much of a sense of how does this affect me? That's the Saturn Aries. It's like there becomes a hyper protection of the self or a hyper defensiveness with Saturn and Aries. And often for good reasons. If we see that in a natal chart, we see that there's lots of good reasons for somebody to be a bit defensive or a bit hyper protective. And there we can say that actually the fact that it's in fall is working in the favor of the masses, if we look at Pluto and Aquarius, and the individual and their ability to stand up and say, wait a minute, this
yeah.
isn't working for me. And we see this, don't we, in so many ways now, people who were pretty sound asleep for a very, very long time and who have a platform, quite a big platform, and they're saying, I believed this for so long, and now I really want you to know what is going on. And this has been a very interesting turnaround amongst journalists or people who are natural communicators
Mm,
and suddenly waking up. And that was part of that, what I think you were getting at there, the extreme, the peak. It was
mm,
so absurd and so illogical and so in your face, just brutal power grab that even the average sort of obedient citizen was saying, just what, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And now they've lost it, basically. I mean, there's
Yes.
still a big flock of people who are following along, but I think most people, there's a turning of the tides now. Most people are
Mm.
starting to see at least one element of all the different things that is
Yes.
going to affect them, and that's the Aries aspect too, perhaps since
Yeah.
last April from the Neptune ingress on the 30th of March 2025. So that really broke a spell, it feels like.
Yes. And, you know, um, there will never be another astrological opportunity like that to wield power in that way for many hundreds of years more. So, anyone who worries about the return of that time, yeah, sure, people can try. The
Yeah,
interested parties who are making money out of it can try.
yeah.
But it will never work again because that Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn was really brought out the fear of death in all of us.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, very
And
Saturnian. Yeah.
yeah, and that ripped through society like a
Mm.
wildfire.
Yeah.
And it was it's very easy to manipulate scared people.
This is it, isn't it? Yeah. That's
Yeah.
also maybe the benefit of this cycle of the Aries and Neptune, sorry, the Saturn Neptune in Aries cycle, which is to have people realize how much more agency they have compared to what
Mm.
they have been led to believe or that they have assumed going through their whatever, however many generations. And this is also something that's part of again, the Gutenberg Gemini theme or the mass communication theme that is diffusing information in a way that people can hear it in the way they need to hear it. Like everybody they'll find their little tribe or their individual
Yeah.
that they have confidence in, and they'll hear that bit of information.
Yeah. Well, you think about it, the rise of democracy after the dissemination of the Bible, people were taking, their God's word
Yeah,
at his word, love each other.
yeah.
Yeah, love thy neighbor as thyself. I mean, that's the basis of democracy, isn't it?
We'd love to think so.
Well, it ought to be.
In a
It's
perfect world, yeah, yeah, that would be right. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because also we have the polar opposite, which is again, I get coming back to Mark Twain. It's like the good and the bad of the thing, but we have that polar opposite today, which is God promised us all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
God, the real estate agent,
Yeah.
and that is somehow the message of that
Yeah,
belief.
well, the devil can quote scripture to his own ends,
Right,
you know?
right, right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, um, Let me see. Where
So,
else are
so
we
this,
looking
let's
for?
just come back to the Saturn Neptune thing for a minute, because Saturn and Neptune really are only super tight in 2026, and then they start to weaken their conjunction as of 2027. So the rest of the time that Saturn is in Aries, it's a much, much weaker conjunction through 2027 and the first, what is it, 3.5 months of 2028. So it's up until the 12th of April, 2028. Then we lose Saturn to Taurus, and then Neptune stays in Aries. So we, like you kind of referred to this opportunity, this window of opportunity to really, well, at least for the power grabbers, to manipulate people and so on. But I see this as the other window of opportunity for individuals through 2026 to take you could almost say the power back in a way, or at least to really recognize where we have a capacity to construct something, to build something, to manifest something in that Saturnian way that is based on an ideology that is more functional or more, let's say, healing or appropriate. But then something will change after this. So the intensity will wane. Even though in the mini grand trine that's coming up when we add Uranus into the mix from Uranus going into Gemini, and then this mid-year bucket or cradle aspect that's coming in with Jupiter, that's going to blend into a whole different story again. So it's difficult to say what that will be. But if we just say with the Saturn moving away from Neptune, how do you think that's going to influence us? Well, let's say this year, first of all, and then as they separate. Or what kind of, let's say, what kind of orb do you give to these planetary conjunctions to be in power,
Well,
in function.
with Saturn, I give it 8 or 9 degrees at least, because Saturn
Yeah,
is just so powerful.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And in techno astrological terms, the technical terms, Saturn has been besieged. I mean,
Yeah.
Saturn's a malefic itself, but it's been besieged between two malefics,
Right.
which is Pluto and Neptune. I think most people will call most of the the three outer planets are kind of malefic because we don't know how to handle them yet.
Right. So what
They're
I
our
just want
new
to
gods.
describe, I just want to
Mm,
describe for those who might be new to astrology, the idea of besiegement is like standing between two people who don't have your best interests at heart,
yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
that feeling of being restricted, let's say. So that planet
Mm,
feels like it's going to find it difficult to function because on either side of it either mom and dad or the schoolmaster and the teacher are standing there restricting or police and whatever judiciary are standing there restricting your activity, and so it feels very uncomfortable, or it creates a tension, let's say an overall feeling of tension. And
yeah.
interestingly, we have this now with Mars on the one side, Mars at the end of Aquarius now, and Saturn, and all of the personal planets are besieged by Mars at the end of Aquarius, and Saturn now at the beginning of Aries. So
That's a real classical besiegement going
it
on
is,
there.
isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the two standard
Except for
malefics.
Jupiter. Jupiter is free.
Yeah, Jupiter for the moment is having a great
Mm,
time and also being trined by
mm.
I think it's on with
And
Sun.
Uranus is free.
Is no, it's being squared by Mars.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Mm,
building up to the square, and then
mm.
the square comes up on Friday, I think. I'm
Okay.
keenly aware of that because Uranus is on my north node, so inter alia. So these are I would say for many people could be a way of understanding why there's just so much angst and agitation in the air, and so much of a feeling of um, things are happening, but it's not happening fast enough, or things are happening,
Mm,
but it's not happening the way that it should, morally or
yeah.
judicially speaking, or whatever.
That
Um,
we're in a siege situation.
yeah,
You look at it like that in war terms, we can't move
yeah,
it as much as we would like to. But Jupiter there in Cancer gives us, a good way to wait is nourishing yourself and nourishing your family and, having a nice kitchen and a home and
yeah. But also that
and
notion of the Cancer is like the water, the first water element of the chart, and it also has that primordial water quality, like of the uterus of the this is where we're birthed from, and that's the Jupiter aspect of it as well is the wisdom. In the Indian mythology, it's called Hiranyagarbha. It's the golden cosmic womb of the universe, and that Jupiter in Cancer carries that signature of this thing that is being birthed, and we're not ready to birth it yet. It's not there because we still got this Jupiter moving back to station on the 11th of March. But it's on Sirius, and I mentioned that in my recent video and in some others and earlier on. And Sirius is a blessing. It's a higher wisdom, a place of higher wisdom. But the wisdom comes from we can in this case say the besiegement. It's coming from the hard won lessons, and we become wise through that, and to see what is life-giving and what is abundant and what is nourishing, and all of that is I would say probably going to be more easy to tap into or easy to act upon after Jupiter stations direct, and after we get through then April, which is a huge Aries stellium, which will no doubt play a role also because each of those planets, as they have connected with Pluto in January and therefore sextiled Neptune, now they are going to be conjoining Neptune and Saturn as they come into Aries as of the sort of middle of March and the third week of March. And that's going to be a whole different ballgame because then all of those planets start to sextile Pluto. And it gives a square eventually to Jupiter as well as they go through Aries. So I think there's going to be this whole potential for a kind of a thrust of movement that people are going to start to see this release in a way, this kind of, especially after the square to Jupiter, this besiegement that you've been referring to is going to find some way of breaking down, or it's going to find some way of breaking through that is going to be productive. Now, it doesn't mean that that's going to be easy or
No,
even
no.
nice to live through,
Mhm.
possibly quite the opposite, but it's going to feel like the necessary release, if like you're using a pressure cooker or something
Yeah,
and you have that whistle blowing. It's like, I can't hear one more whistle. We've got to cut the heat. And, that's that feeling. I feel like that's what the besiegement feels like at the moment.
yeah, yeah.
It's the pressure cooker, and we're just starting to get the whistles.
And as Jupiter, or sorry, as Saturn just recently did its only exact conjunction with Neptune. Saturn is the reality principle. It busts illusions. And boy, have a lot of people had their illusions bust in the
Yeah,
last month, you
yeah.
know. And that's going to continue. Every time that Neptune gets hit by something, or like
It's like a cosmic wake-up call, isn't it?
it
It's like a little
really
smack.
is. I mean, it's so wonderful. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, this Neptune-Pluto sextile uh, becomes exact again on the 24th of July, happens to be my birthday. But
Aha.
yeah,
We'll
and
definitely look out for that because you're also going to have Mars and Jupiter there
yeah,
with
I
opposing
mean,
that Pluto.
I'm sure you're going to do lots of podcasts on that
We're going to
period.
do a live broadcast with you on your birthday.
Okay, it's a nice 70th birthday
Tell us,
present.
Anne, how does it feel?
Yeah, but where was I with that?
Yeah,
Where
you
was
were saying about the exact
Oh yeah,
sextile, 24th of July.
and then there's another one. I think it's October 2027. And then, Pluto gets a bit slower and Neptune moves away from Pluto because Pluto has a very variable speed, in its whole
Yeah.
orbit.
And
Like
it's
from
very
Leo to
slow in
Aquarius,
Aquarius.
it goes fast, and from
Right.
Aquarius to Leo, it goes, from Leo to Aquarius, it goes fast, and then Aquarius to Leo, it goes slow.
Right. Yeah.
So it's getting into its slow part now in Aquarius. So it starts to hang back, and that sextile gets broken. And I mean, that's going to be a big wake up call. But of course, when the lies stop working, that's a dangerous time.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? This is
Yeah.
the, for example, because if we're looking at again the theme anyway of Gemini, but also additionally so now that Uranus comes in, and then
Yeah.
we've got air and fire. So we know that this is a lot about the internet age and the age of air travel and all these
Mm,
information uses now, or what's the word for like currency replaced by, actual physical currency being replaced by digital currencies and this kind of thing. Now, eh, people like myself, I'm 100% vulnerable to this. Meaning that if there's this, because as you were saying, it's a dangerous place, and what you were meaning, I suspect, by that was that the powers that be, people who still have power, are going to be turning the spigot on and off according to what they want and what they see going on around them, or according to how safe they feel. And that is where you find people who, like Francesca Albanese, who's the
mm,
UN rapporteur
mm,
on Gaza, and she's been sanctioned. She cannot have any contacts with anyone that bring her any kind of support. Whether if somebody brings her a bag of groceries, they
yeah.
risk being charged. She can't exchange money. She can't use her Visa card. She can't use her bank account. She's fortunate that she has a spouse, so she's got at home. She's accessible she has things that are accessible to her, but it's a very risky place, and if they can shut the whole shop down if they choose, and this is the fine edge that we're working, or the fine sort of knife's edge,
Mm.
that is the times
Yeah,
that we're
there's
in.
there's another a Swiss guy. I mean, he's Swiss, but
Yes,
he's
yes,
sanctioned by
yeah.
the European Union. But
Colonel
he
Beau,
lives about, yeah,
absolutely.
Jacques Beau. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
and there's no legal comeback to this.
No, this is the
This
this is
is
the problem.
totalitarian. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no
and this is
there's no
this is
law being
it takes.
broken nor being enacted. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes us back to the Middle Ages,
Yeah.
where if you displease the king or whatever, or the fief fiefdom, you are off with the head kind of thing. And
Yeah.
this is the electronic version of it. Um,
And if you drown, in the witch trials, if you drowned, you weren't a witch.
right?
But if you didn't
Yeah,
drown,
yeah,
you're a witch and we have to kill you.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
this is it. It's
yeah,
maddening. It's maddening, and it is literally crazy making in that Neptunian sextile to Pluto away, isn't it?
yeah.
That's that mind meld, this kind of playing with the mind, because and I think if we go back to Freud, this is where a lot of people justifiably had a lot of issues because he was doing some very damaging sexual things, telling people about their sexuality or even children with reference to different things. Um, it's playing with the mind from a place of power. And from a place of I'm the authority, you have to listen to that. And I think we've never really left that, except that it's become so insidious, it's become so diffused through our culture that the supposed, power brokers are the people we see on the screen. So if you're on television, you must have some kind of credibility. You must be an
Mm,
authority, and then they can say somebody who, for example, is an independent journalist has no authority, or you didn't get a journalism degree, so your opinion is useless. But again, it's all being played from the power hand.
yes.
And I think that's where we are in this slippery slope. And that's why I do have a little bit of a worry about these easy aspects that are the sextiles and trines, which on the surface look
Absolutely.
positive, what it means is things just keep flowing in
Yeah.
the direction that they're going. So,
And when they're made up of, difficult for us to understand planets, so they're malefic for us because we
yeah,
don't understand them
yeah,
yet, because they're kind of new in our consciousness. They
right,
were only
yeah,
discovered in the last couple of hundred years, so they're new to us.
yes,
Um, like, and they're for our generation, and like people, even people born in the 30s before this aspect came into play, they grew up with this.
yeah,
Like, so everybody on the planet is swimming in the water of Pluto and Neptune. So
yeah,
we can't see it.
yes,
It's like a
yeah,
fish in water. If you ask a fish, what's water? Yeah, they don't know what
yeah,
water is because that's just their environment.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. No,
So it only now coming towards the end of this, and with the vast amounts of Gemini and fabulous information and confusing information that's out there, only now are we being able to go, hang on a minute,
mm,
I'm just taking a little bit of distance from this and
yeah.
having a look at it. It's only starting, really, I would say, since the 20 teens, possibly.
Yeah,
The spread of internet, which of course has a million and one things wrong with it, but I am so grateful for it personally.
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
again, it comes back to that quote you said about, Mark Twain, just it's the good and the bad emerging from the thing. It's just a neutral Gemini, neutral uh, channel of communication, and the
yeah,
good and the bad will emerge from that depending on who's using it or who's listening.
yes,
So really interesting times to be alive.
yeah,
Um, would you like to run through a house by house kind of delineation where people who are, because we're all here, and again, if we give it a wide berth of, a 10-degree orb, and even we could, I think, if we look at it from such a slow-moving planet, we could even extend to 15 degrees. But anyway, let's just say everybody has the Pluto and Neptune sextile, and we can look at that in anybody's individual charts from the house to house. So we'll, let's say, if imagining that, for example, Pluto is in the first house, Neptune will be in the third house, for example.
yeah.
We won't go sign by sign because that just gets
No,
impossible
too
because that,
much. Mm,
yeah, there's been so many shifts over the generations, but
mm.
that can be done in a personal reading, and either of us do those, so we can do that separately. But we can go house by house. So Pluto in the first and Neptune in the third, etc. Shall we start from that point?
Yeah, could just one more thing on the more cosmic,
The general, yeah.
universal level, is that Gemini rules trade routes.
Mm. Ah, yeah.
Hmm?
Ooh,
And the 13 1400s, the sextile was the discovery, apologies to anybody indigenous listening,
yeah,
of North and South America looking for a
right.
trade route. And it expanded the world immensely and business immensely. Um, and trade routes are the cause of war at the moment.
Right. Yeah, I
You
think
know,
they probably
with the
already.
the Belt and Road Initiative and the
Yeah,
Suez,
yeah,
the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal have always
yeah.
been areas of contention.
And the Belt and Road is actually recalling the Silk Route. So it's
Yes.
actually it's also from that century. The Silk Road became really huge 1,000 years ago,
Okay.
and lasted 300 or 400 years. It peaked after 200 years, but it's still ongoing today. There's still very
Mm.
much a traceable path of migration and trade. But it's interesting how that specifically overlaps again with that notion that you were describing of the
Yeah.
Gemini and the trade and the
Yeah.
vulnerability of that
Yeah. And
and the power struggle.
trade is the best alternative to war. Like, if people are doing business, they don't want to upset the apple cart by killing
Yeah,
each other.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
trade's kind of important in terms of world peace. Yeah. And that hotspot, West Asia, the
yeah.
Middle East, and the Anglo-Zionist Empire carry on there. That's to do with trade routes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there's a
Mm.
fantastic book, again, probably written 100 years ago, maybe more actually. And the book is called The Great Game. I've forgotten who wrote it, but it's
Oh,
called,
yeah.
The Great Game?
Yeah.
And
Well, no, I
that
know of the
specific
book. I haven't read it. Mm.
great book because it really describes the what the British Empire was calling a game. For them, it was all really, pieces of, things moving around on a map on somebody's table or something. There was no consideration for the effects of the game, but they were
Yeah.
playing this game with,
Mm.
Afghanistan and Iraq and the whole Levant area. And this is also very Gemini. I'm bringing that up because of that reason, because the notion of a game is Gemini. Gemini is all about games and
Yeah.
playing, and
Mm.
whether it be wordplay or board games or just children playing in a garden. It's the notion of these, because it was all about trade as well, and who owned what resource and who controlled which border, etc. And this is where we are sitting today, even though it looks like the UK is not so much involved, it's heavily involved in what's going on here. And this is very much part of a continuation of that old Silk Road. Um, who's the robber baron, who's the thief on the highway, who's the one that owns the gold or the spices that are being transported.
Mhm.
And this is still the story right now in the
Little
same
story.
region. Yeah, fantastic to think about that relationship with the Pluto-Neptune
Yeah.
Gemini.
And if there was a Carrington event, a huge pulse of energy from the sun and wiped out all the electricity or whatever, that makes our communications run tomorrow, we'd still have Pluto and Neptune in a sextile.
Right.
And it
Yeah,
is important to
yeah.
remember that. And that's like, I think of that, that experiment that something they discovered, when all the monkeys on one island learn to do something, the monkeys on the other island that have no communication physically with them do the same thing. It's kind of
Right.
like quantum physics,
Yeah, yeah.
you split an atom and you tickle the one in Paris, the one in New York laughs. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right. Yeah,
It is quantum entanglement. Maybe that's called
yes,
something like that. But it's the fact that we are connected and
yes,
we're becoming aware of that. The computers are just an outward manifestation of it. And
yes.
hopefully, in the next couple of thousand years, while all of this Gemini stuff is getting stronger and stronger through the Pluto and Neptune conjunctions in Gemini, up to 3,000 and something like. Um, we're going to become aware of our psychic abilities more and more and more,
Right.
and our
Yeah,
empathy,
yeah,
in an empathetic way. Of course, there will always be the dark side. We know that.
yeah, yeah.
But that's where we're going, and that's what Pluto and Aquarius is. I mean, that's what Aquarius is. We say it's technological, but it's to do with the connections between us all,
Right. Yeah.
and that we're one. We're very individual, and we're one.
Right, right.
I mean, that is, I think maybe you have to really study Eastern philosophy to really understand Aquarius.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. To understand life, I would say honestly, I
Yeah.
think really only Eastern philosophy explains things in a way
Yeah.
that is actually coherent and logical,
Mm,
that can be defended.
mm,
Things get lost, the plot gets lost in different other corners, especially in Western thinking. Because it's exclusive. It's eliminating
mm,
huge aspects of what it means to be human and what it means to be meaning that it's not just this physicality and that there's so much more of us. In fact, vastly more of us that is non-physical than is physical.
mm.
If we could even say physical. And yes, it's interesting. I was thinking again about Rupert Sheldrake, who's somebody I follow quite closely, and I've been following him for a very, very long time. And in the, I guess it was just as Pluto entered into Capricorn, he'd already had a lot of conflict with his colleagues, but he pretty much got banned for a TED Talk, which I think was around 2010 or something like that, which was talking about his theme, the theory that he has of morphic resonance, which is a bit
Yeah.
what you're describing there.
Mm,
And and it's very interesting because it's come full circle, especially as Pluto started to move into Aquarius. All of a sudden, because he even had a very tiny YouTube channel for many, many years that I was subscribed to, and it was like 7,000 people or something. And as soon as Pluto went into Aquarius, that channel exploded, and he has hundreds of thousands of followers now, and people are ready to hear what he's saying. And there's no longer this dogma, the Capricorn, but it was, of course, predating Capricorn. He first had these ideas when Pluto was in Virgo.
mm,
So this is a long way back. But this is just to explain it in terms of what people are receptive to now. As Pluto moved into Aquarius, March 2023, there is just this vastly different way of hearing esoteric things. And suddenly people are all about listening to things like near-death experiences and extra sensory perception and different experiments that have gone on. People suddenly were waking up to MK Ultra. Now, those crazy ones like myself who were talking about this many, many years ago, we were labeled absolutely insane. And the fact that that might be, part of what is going on through Hollywood or through music or any of these other cultural influences, again, according to the Bernays model. Um, Now people are like, yeah, that's happening. That's a thing. That's actually going on. And you can even see that even more so as Neptune ingressed Aries and is starting to get closer and closer to that perfected sextile. All of a sudden now you're getting this whole revelation through the Epstein files, and that revelation has provoked people to re-evaluate people they had written off before. And especially those people they've written off in the Pluto in Sagittarius generation, very Sagittarius, very judgmental, very, sort of this is the idea to follow, this is the ideology. And now things are breaking down in a way that people are reviewing what
mm.
people were trying to do before, and seeing that, oh wow, they were the canary in the coal mine. They were the ones trying
Yeah.
to tell us something.
Sagittarius is such a truth-telling sign, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and also, but it can be very dogmatic as well. So
Mm.
there was this whole Pluto in Sag era for me was when the international law broke down, and the Americans started to use the term rules-based international order
Oh,
to deviate from international law. Because if you actually talk about international law, it is written in black and white. Rules-based international order isn't even a thing. So it means US domination, basically. And so you have this whole fragmenting always through this lens of Pluto going through the sextile in the different iterations, because Neptune was in Aquarius in those days, and then Pluto was in Sagittarius. And so there was just this whole a different lens of how to look at what is legal, what is good science, what is appropriate truth, who owns the truth, Pluto and Sag. All of these things, that was also the event around 9/11. Pluto was on the US ascendant in the middle of Sagittarius, and so many of these things we're fragmenting what it means to hold the truth. Who holds the truth? Who
Oh, yeah.
owns the truth?
And the scandals in the churches, you know, the
Yes,
abuse scandals
same
in the
same
churches.
era,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah, that
Yeah,
was the
but yeah.
90s for well,
Mm,
especially the 90s, especially for
mm,
the Vatican and the Catholic Church.
mm.
Yeah, yeah. So we're in for some really interesting revelations for sure, but also ways of working with that, especially with Aries, because we have to keep bringing it back to the individual, bringing it back to ourselves.
Yeah. Now, here I'm kind of going a little bit off track here, but it was something we meant to talk about before. It's the Sabian symbol for
Oh
zero
yes,
degrees
please let's
Aries,
do that. Yeah, yeah. We'll we'll
where
we'll,
I
we'll
think,
do other videos for whatever we leave out. We'll just keep talking. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, do the Sabian symbols. Let's go.
yeah, because I mean, Neptune and Saturn are still at 0 degrees, aren't they? Both of them. I mean, Saturn hasn't even got to 1 degree yet, has it?
Just
Maybe today.
yeah, hang on. Let me just check that because
Uh,
yeah, I think it's just coming up. The one, the sec. Well, technically in the Sabian, well, in a formal way of talking about the astrology, what we're looking at is when we talk about 0 degrees, it's the first degree of the sign.
yeah,
And
zero
so
to one. Yeah.
yeah, so if we're looking at that, let me just check here on my handy app. Yeah, Saturn has just gone into the second degree, so it's into 1 degree 11 minutes today.
Okay.
And we've got Neptune at 0 degrees and 52 arc minutes of Aries. So it's in the first degree from the Sabian symbols reading of it. And the Saturn would be in the second degree. And then, of course,
Okay.
Pluto is now in the fifth degree because it's 424,
Yeah, but the Sabian symbol for zero, Aries, the
the
very
first.
beginning of the zodiac,
Yeah.
where that conjunction happened on the 20th, that we all talked about a lot. Um, the Sabian symbol is that a woman arises from the ocean,
Oh,
and a
wow.
seal arises beside her.
Oh, the seal. Yeah, right. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And some of them say, and a seal embracing a seal, or the seal embraces her.
Mhm.
So it's like, I actually find this quite confusing. I'm kind of throwing it out there
Okay.
because it's a very feminine energy, like the
Yeah.
woman and the seal coming out of the boundless Piscean feminine ocean into the beginning of Aries, which is, a powerful Mars,
Yeah,
masculinity,
isn't that
the
interesting?
masculine.
And it's but it is sort of the so-called birth of spring and birth of the zodiac from a tropical perspective. I guess we
Yeah,
could use that metaphor beyond the Mars, but
yeah,
also it refers, I think, to the Venus who emerges from, or even Lakshmi who emerges from the ocean,
okay.
and so that she's actually emerging from in the oceanic reference again is the reference to the sperm and the seminal fluid. And so uh, in Indian astrology, Venus is Shukra, and Shukra is also a word for sperm, and it references the thing that is bringing new life, bringing abundance, bringing relationship, bringing the dynamic of harmony, and so on, ideally. And so that I think it still works in the sense that it's emerging from something that is primordial, the zero, the 29 Pisces into the 0 point. And
Mhm.
that's what the Indians call Gandanta as well. And Gandanta means literally it means beginning ending. It's again the knife's edge between what's beginning, what's ending. Like at a new moon, is that the end of a cycle or the beginning of a cycle? So this is also the Aries point. It's the beginning, but it only can begin because something has ended. And so it's that sense of, even if we look at conception, the ovum has to break open, it has to split to be the beginning of life. So there's something that's ending. The state of the ova is ending, ovum is ending to create the beginning of something. So there is that reference. And again, if we kind of go with this notion of the Ardhaneshwara, which is the both masculine and feminine together, or life itself being a combination of masculine and feminine, it does work, I think, because Aries can only be, it still needs the feminine, even though it's defined as a solar masculine sign. It still requires the feminine energy. That's where the inspiration comes from. The action is the Mars, but the inspiration is coming from that 12th house Pisces, which is feeding into Aries and saying, this is why I do what I do. This is the thought or the dream behind it, and I'm acting on the thing.
Like the high priestess. I mean, that's
Yeah, yeah,
she comes
yeah,
before everything is a high priestess because
yeah.
she's the
So
seat.
what book are you reading from? Is that the original one that Elsie
No,
Wheeler?
no, I don't have anything in front of me.
No. Mm.
I wrote it. I mean, I read it and I wrote a little bit of it down
Yeah,
ages ago to talk about it and then forgot.
right.
Um,
Let me check.
uh,
I think behind me I might have Rudyard's book. Let's just see. All my books are always in the wrong place because I've got stuff in storage in Brussels and in Kenya. So I'm not
but
sure.
it is such a inseminating moment, isn't it?
That's literally it, isn't it? It's that
Yeah.
the notion of insemination and that notion of
Mm,
the potential for something new to be created
mm.
in this 0 degree conjunction.
And
And
then it's connected to the Pluto in the society sign, and
yeah,
how
yeah,
we all work together. So it's a seminal moment to do with how we work together,
right,
isn't
right.
it? And how what I love about Aquarius, I have quite a lot of Aquarius in my chart, is that it's to do with being utterly unique. I'm me, and there's nobody like me,
Yeah,
but I get on with people and
right.
I cooperate with people. I
Yeah,
mean, it's such an impossible demand, actually, of
yeah,
us
yeah.
as we are today.
And
Yeah,
it's like being that unique individual self
yeah.
and not impinging on the collective, just being
Mm.
part of the collective. And that's the really positive aspect of Aquarius, which is to live and let everybody do their thing
And
and
that the
be in
collective
this.
doesn't impinge on me.
Yeah,
That's a big
yeah.
thing for
That's,
Aquarius.
I think with Pluto and Aquarius, that's probably the bigger question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's very interesting what your that symbol brings up, that whole thing about inception and conception and
Mm,
doing something in a novel way, and also because the moment of birth, the moment of, it's a miracle that any of us are here because
mm,
the statistical chances of actually an egg actually being fertilized and then going on to establish itself in the uterus and then actually surviving the pregnancy and becoming a fetus and growing into strength enough to be born, all of
mm,
that borders on, well, it is a miracle. And then the fact that it also represents this thing that is so close to death, because when we talk about birth, we also have to talk about death, because if something emerges, it's going to disappear. This is, if something comes into the physical form, it's going to disappear. And I think that's what makes it so highly potent. It's so highly energized because it's that Aries, 0 Aries moment of if not now, when? Like life is in this moment, so we have to do this thing. And in the recognition of if we're not doing this thing towards life, I can't say pro-life because that's now taken on a new meaning, but
mm,
towards life,
mm,
that's life affirming, let's say, then we are going to be in a difficult situation, which is much more life, what would be the opposite of affirming, life threatening. And
mm,
and so we are really, that's that Aries urgency. Like I had to do this now because I'm alive in this moment. I'm breathing right now. This is the moment to act. And I find that's what's really exciting about the potentiality of this year and next year, which carries a bit of it as well in the bigger theme of the outer planets. It's that level of recognizing we're here now, we're breathing now, we're alive in this moment. So take action, do something. Like, don't just wait for somebody else to do something, because that taking the action is part of the Aries remedy in the sense that Aries starts to feel angry or restless or resentful or frustrated when it's not in action. It needs to take action to get that energy going. It needs the flow, it needs the goal and the purpose. Otherwise, it just starts to break down in anger or whatever. But it really feels like in that Gandanta point, that's the point between moving from water to fire. This is the moment of birth. That's how the elements move through in the Indian elemental table. It moves from, it goes, fire is moving into water, but when it goes from water to fire, it's a more awkward transition.
mm,
So the transition from water to fire is like, well, you've got to birth something out of this place that was otherwise quite hidden or murky or
yeah.
possibly even stagnant or hard to grasp. And fire becomes the outer expression, the masculine action oriented or visible manifestation of that. So this is quite pertinent to this moment in time, but all of this year, because it's a theme that is just the background of this whole year ahead of us. And so including the 36-year cycle of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And Pluto will be in Aquarius for most of that time, and then Pluto moves into Pisces as that cycle plays out of the 36-year cycle. I'm not likely to see the end of that cycle, maybe just, but that's the theme that we're grappling with, not just in this moment, but it's at its peak right now, like that 0-degree urgency.
Mm.
Do you
Mm.
have any other of the Sabian symbols? Do you have the one for Pluto, for example, or?
No, I don't. No, I didn't look that up.
Yeah,
No,
we'll
that
do
would
that
be.
maybe next time. We can recite
Yeah.
that because I do have these books somewhere, probably
Yeah.
upstairs in my. I'm not in my office as we're doing this.
And you know, the last time that, that conjunction was at zero Aries, like a lot of people have kindly shared their knowledge about when that was, like six and a
Yeah,
half thousand years ago.
yeah, yeah,
And that was the age of Taurus. And we were getting comfortable with the earth then. We were beginning, the farming and creating beautiful things. There was
yeah,
more comfort for human beings with nature at that point. We could
yeah,
store food, and we got into the material stuff, when you
yeah,
settle
yeah,
down, stuff just falls on you when you settle down, like
yeah, yeah,
compared with being a nomad and what you can carry. But and now Pluto, and now we're kind of in the age of Aquarius, or on the verge of it.
yeah.
People argue about when that starts, but Pluto there, I think, is a pretty good sign of it starting,
It's
really.
certainly highlighting
Yeah,
it, if anything else. It's
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
showing us what it can be, what it
So
might be. Yeah,
now we're learning to live together because, there weren't too many humans in those days. And,
yeah.
there was plenty of room for people to spread out. Not so. Now we have to live together.
Yeah, but I find actually on a
Mm,
thematic level, when was a sparse population, like even when I was born in
mm.
66 and there were only 2 billion people on the planet. Like it blows my mind that there are 8 billion today. But the the need to learn to live together is an existential one, and we're still in that existential need. So whether you're in a community of 20 people and most of you are related, or there's two villages that cooperate or whatever, or so life becomes very interdependent on an urgent day-to-day basis. But if we're not realizing that we're still in that interdependency, it's never been any different and it can never be any different. It's just that now things are so spread out and so impersonal, which is also very Aquarian, and that
Mm.
so impersonal. It's like, well, okay, 1.5 billion of those people are in India, but we don't see them every day unless you're there. If you're listening from India, welcome. But it's these distances that are psychological. They're the air element puts us at a sense of having a distance and a separation from each other. But if we want to survive, we have to come closer to what you were saying earlier about this understanding of psychic connection and being able to feel each other, being able to relate to each other in a way that makes us remember we are interdependent. There's no other way to live. And whether you're in a tiny community or a massive global community, it's no different. And we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. The energy of recent, let's say, decades or centuries, the Western dominant sort of philosophy is, I want my stuff. Like I want to own, I want to possess, I want to have these things, and it's my divine right to do so, for example.
At the
And
expense of others. I mean, it's
exactly,
okay to want to have stuff. We can have a win-win situation.
yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't have to be I have everything and you have nothing. Like,
Right. That's the Aries, so the
mm,
Aquarius, let's say ideal that we will get probably in the early years of Pluto and Aquarius. It's not going to be close to that because of the early years being so intense, and the people often have to learn their lessons the hard way. And then there's going to be a point at which we get to the what you could describe as the peak energy where it shows its face like it did during 2020, for example, when Pluto was moving out of Capricorn and people were wait a minute, this is getting way out of hand, it's way too ugly. And so we're in a process of understanding that interconnected nature when we've got Pluto moving through Aquarius. And it's only when Pluto finally enters into Pisces that people will really get it. It's kind of when you're in the thick of it, people are still kind of figuring out what does any of this mean. And we have to go through it and embody it or learn it as well, some of us maybe open more quickly because we're simply already attuned to those things. But for a general change to happen, I think we need to wait through that cycle till we see that the message has become so painful that if we don't hunker down and live together and be here for one another, it's just it's not going to work out. Like nothing will keep us alive if we're not keeping each other alive.
Yeah. And
So
Aquarius is a sign of surprising breakthroughs. So I guess we'll
yeah,
be pleasantly surprised now and then.
yes, exactly. That's the whole thing about Uranus going into Gemini because that combination of Pluto in Aquarius and then Uranus in Gemini is giving so much potential for insight and novelty around how to overcome things. And Uranus combined with the energy of Gemini is about quick thinking and about sudden insight and awareness around things that can offer solutions that, as we're sitting here today, we couldn't possibly imagine or couldn't put our finger on because it's just so far out there. Yeah, so this is I think exciting times. But the Aries, for the moment anyway, the imperative is to act. We need to take action, and we need to see how we individually are contributing to the bigger picture, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. You know, can we assess ourselves? Or what you say about the wake up call that Saturn brings in when it comes smack up against Neptune in
Yeah.
Aries, and like, have you been a source for good? You know, have you been really walking your talk, or have you been contributing to the mess that you're complaining about, for example? And I think this is the blessing again of having this Saturn that's uncomfortable because it's uncomfortable to the extent that it really needs to take action to find a better place, to find a better role for itself.
Yeah, I mean, Aries is not a fluffy sign. Like it's not
Yeah,
believing in fluffy woo-woos kind of things, is it? It's,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
we do it or we don't. Come
Yes,
on.
yeah, and there's an urgency behind it, which I
Yeah.
think, it
Yeah.
can again goes both ways. But on an individual level, there's so much that we can work with here. On a collective level, again, it depends on the collective components. It'll just, what tips the scales, I guess.
Mm.
I think we might not have time today to go through the house by house, but I
Yeah,
do want to do
perhaps
that.
we should do that separately.
Yeah, yeah,
I
because I
mean,
think that's a
I've
really
written down some very vague notes, and I was going to consider it as astrological improv, and that
right.
you
Well,
were
do
going
you, do
to
you
do
want
most
to do
of
you
the
want to provide a
improvising.
teaser? Shall we have a teaser? Well, we can just do a teaser, or what do you think? Like if we just do,
Okay.
well,
Well,
if
well,
since you,
okay, we could try it.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
well,
I
let's
mean,
see where it
my
goes.
notes are incredibly brief because I started them at 8:30, like, and then started talking
Okay.
to you at 9:30. Yeah.
That's all right. Well, if you prefer, we'll wait. Otherwise, we can just have a
Yeah,
short
let's
intro.
wait.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
my eyes are a
we'll
bit sore now looking at the screen. Yeah.
okay, yeah, no
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we did this. I think it's really, really important, really relevant for people who are already trying to conceptualize what it means to be alive in this era, in this new
Yeah.
space.
And the water that we're swimming in, the air that we're
Yeah,
breathing is Pluto-Neptune, no?
yeah, yeah,
And for good things as well. It's the
yeah,
power of compassion, is
yeah.
Pluto-Neptune.
Yes, because those things have been parallel, as we've seen in
Mm.
the way of how television might be used or how cinema might be used or whatever. There's the good and the bad in all of that. They are
The
just
welfare
means
state,
of. Hmm?
the welfare state,
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
you
interesting.
know,
Yeah.
that is the power of compassion.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
That was the good side of it. Well, I mean,
Right.
it's misused in all kinds of ways,
Yeah.
but the basic thing, if you're a single mother and or if you're in a difficult marriage and you can't afford to leave, then you could because there
Yeah.
was an
Some,
income.
yeah, some
Yeah.
source of support is there for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the positive aspect of Neptune when it's coming
Mm.
through a higher aspect of love and compassion,
Mm.
care, awareness spiritually and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Healthcare, mental health,
Okay.
all those
Yeah.
things, brilliant things that sometimes we don't recognize that we've been in this part of the world, not in every part of the world.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. That's it.
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Gosh, Anne, it's been so fun talking to you. I really
Yeah,
enjoy our conversations. I look forward to the next one. And
yeah.
again, for those who want to connect with you, Anne, I have your website will be posted with the caveat that you'd like people to wait till the revised blog comes out.
Just
Yeah.
read the Pluto-Neptune
I thought
article.
it was great, actually. I thought it was great. I'm not sure what mistakes you're talking about,
But
but
I mean, it will be better, shall we say? Give me
okay,
a
yeah,
few
well,
days.
carry
Yeah,
on. Yeah, carry on.
yeah, yeah.
But in the meantime, people can reach you at your website below
Mm,
and then ask for a reading through that website.
mm.
And what else do we need to say?
And that we'll get together and make this Pluto-Neptune thing more personal, because
Good,
we've been
yeah,
talking in quite universal political terms now.
yeah,
And of course, how they affect us, but to see where our power is, because, Pluto's Neptune is in my chart and your chart. So
yes,
we have a handle on it somehow.
yeah, true enough. Where is your, let's just for
Well,
one
mine's
split
in
second.
Pluto's in the first house because it's in Leo and I'm a Leo ascendant. So I
Yes,
have from the first to the third.
right,
So it's, it can be, that, my kind of powerful way of being could express, spiritual concepts in a good
right.
way.
Yeah, through the communication in the
Or
third
it could
house.
mean that
Yeah.
I try to get away with lies or
Okay, yeah,
facile.
both are true.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or,
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
use my
yeah,
power
yeah.
to put across, pull the wool over people's eyes, or
Right, right,
facile communication could be Neptune in the third.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Believing in, silly things could be Neptune in the third.
Right. Did you ever have that? Did you go through a phase where that?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I've been through all those things.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
if you're born a Catholic, you learn to lie.
And you learn to believe in silly things. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no offense to anyone, but yeah, okay. Oh, now
Yeah.
I'm getting myself in trouble. But yeah, yeah, you learn to lie, and that's the paradox, isn't it? And that's where we are today.
Yeah.
If we think about the context today overall with the
Yeah.
Pluto Neptune and the basic censorship that is happening everywhere,
Yeah.
we have to pretend, we have to lie. Somebody the other day asked me what am I saying when I'm trying to say PDF file?
Yeah.
And I had to explain that I have to use alternative words, or there is an effect of shadow banning because I've used bigger words to describe what's happening in the Middle East as well, which are words that are proscribed by the algorithm that picks up on what people are talking about. And so when I say genocide, for example, I get myself in trouble. And that's when people start to be creative. You can't say certain words. And that's that we're lying to cope in a way with the situation that has dominance over us, has telling us what to believe, that is telling us how to behave. And when we try and deviate in that Aquarian way, that way, or the Leo way, even better, the Pluto and Leo, my God, um, the desire to express oneself, you can't repress that. That's the Pluto and Leo generation. That's sex and drugs and rock and roll right there, and you
Yeah.
can't repress that.
No.
And if you try, then it forces people to deviate and to lie and to have to do things in a way that is countercultural, which again throws us back to Aquarius. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you for literally hours and hours. So I think we'll have to end it here.
Yeah, okay. We'll do a separate thing on
Yeah, yeah,
here's my notes.
yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I'm really excited to keep this conversation going because it's really important this year. Really, really good. Thanks again, Anne. All your details
Thank
are
you so much.
below. All right, and we'll speak again really soon.
And let me say, you must have some listeners because, like, we go really deeply into astrology in itself, and people keep coming back for more. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I figure I say what I feel like I should say, or I feel like I have Pluto in the third. So, and mine is conjunct Uranus, so and then Neptune is in the fifth on my south node. So,
that makes sense.
so Pluto in the third in Virgo and Neptune in Scorpio. I'm like, I'm going to put it out there, and I just assume that who needs to hear it is going to come. And I get a little bit of blowback from certain people, but it's a tiny minority. And I have to say, almost every single one of my videos, I get 99% likes,
Mhm.
98 maybe on a bad day. People want to hear certain things. At least my people want to hear certain things. And I feel like that this is what we can bring in terms of a depth of understanding to bring it to the heart of the individual so that It's not just little like, how's your next Tuesday looking? It's really about this is how we can understand what it means to be alive. And this, if
Mhm.
people want it, I'd say they'll find me one way or another. And if they don't want it, they will go somewhere else. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I leave it up to them. But I really honor my followers, and I also want to speak to them in a way that is not talking down. It's not patronizing. Sometimes people have called me arrogant, but it's just like, no, I'm speaking to a level of people who understand. And if you don't, whatever, that's that the Pluto in Virgo is just like, no, I have to, in the third house, I have to say what's true and what I understand. And otherwise, I feel like, please don't talk to me about the weather because I'm not interested. So, although I have Jupiter in Gemini, so I can talk about the weather as well, but it's not where I really feel fulfilled. So, yeah. Anyway, I really look forward to that investigation of all the
Yeah.
different houses and how that shapes up for people. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks again, and looking
Okay.
forward to our next journey together.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye bye.
Take care.